Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunattu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Mahesh, you have a question?
Yeah, I was just had a question on the concept of independent happiness. The whole section, mainly focuses on likes and dislikes and their impact. But are there other factors such as someone's selfishness or, always worrying about the future and the past? Other factors also, feed into being dependent on the world. So, any reason why they aren't also considered in independent happiness?
They are the same thing. When you are anxious about the future, what are you anxious for? That you will get what you want and not get what you don't want. So it's all the same thing. What is your self? What is selfishness? Selfishness is nothing but acting on likes and dislikes. So it's not different things, the same thing.
So, likes and dislikes is the fundamental hurdle to, I mean, is the fundamental cause for dependent happiness. I mean,
Yeah,
you
the
can
fundamental
all
cause is desire, of course, but it's too early in the book to talk like that. So you talk about likes and dislikes. Likes and dislikes is just a manifestation of desire, isn't it? They're not all different things. They're the same thing. They're just said to us in many, 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 many different ways because some people get it with this and some people will get it with that. But the bottom line is the same that I want things to be the way I want. That's the bottom line. And since they are not, I'm unhappy. Since when they are, I'm happy. I mean, that's our very that is the childishness of human existence.
okay.
As if the world is going by our likes and dislikes.
So, are likes and dislikes before desires or desires before likes and dislikes? Which is the more, which is the first and the chicken and
First is vasanas. Vasanas will manifest as desires, and desire is a like and a dislike. A desire where you like it's the chicken and egg, you can put anyone first. It's like desire and attachment. Which one comes first? It's a matter of syntax. But the base is vasana. Now, the base from vasana comes all the stuff.
yeah, vasanas is not uh, is unmanifest, so we can't really tap into that.
Right.
But I was just wondering whether, because unless you like something, you can't desire it, or if you dislike something, you can't not want it. So I just thought maybe likes and dislikes have to be there for a desire to have presence.
Desire is like our umbrella term. We use it across the board. So, yes, depending on how you're using it, then you can say, yeah, you like something and then you desire it. Or you could say, because you desire it, you like it. You could say either. I mean, it all depends. These are words. We have to go beyond the words, beyond the syntax, and understand the base. The base is always that I want you to do something. You meaning everything in the world. I want government like this. I want whether like this, I want husband like this, I want wife like this, I want children like this. And if they don't do whatever it is that my fancy dictates, I'm going to get very upset. It's childishness.
Well, it just seems that maybe likes and dislikes are not problematic till as you said, we want a desire for that to happen. So if you have a like for the government functioning fine, but you don't have a desire back, arising because of that, I think likes and dislikes will make no difference, right? I mean, you can like someone.
Yeah, that's the thing with desire also, no? Desire will make no difference unless it's out of control of your intellect.
Okay. But, right.
It's all the same thing, Mahesh. There is no real division. It is just syntax.
I see. Okay, yeah. Thank you.
Ravi Chabra. There is some confusion about rajasic action, thought, etc. Could you please explain? What exactly would you like to know, Ravi?
No, we say that tamasic, rajasic, and sattvic thought, etc. And we apply this principle of rajasic, tamasic, and sattvic in many places like thought, action, and so on. No? So the way I understand rajasic means action. So that's where the confusion arises. You know, we apply these three in many places. Thank you.
Okay, so rajasic doesn't mean action. Rajasic means desired in action, agitation. Tamas, Rajas, and Sattva are a classification of mental temperaments. It's a classification of our thoughts, right? So, tamasic thoughts are those that are based in ignorance, in inertia, in laziness. Those kind of thoughts. The thoughts which are all passionate and desired in and agitated and stressed and competitive, all those type of thoughts are rajasic thoughts, and sattvic thoughts are balance, poise, clarity. All of these are sattvic. So the sattvic person actually does the best action because he's a clear thinker, so his actions are chosen properly, executed properly. The rajasic guy, he seems to be doing a lot, but he's not really doing a lot because he's got too much going on in his head. There's too much of a mental story there for him to choose properly or execute properly. Both he's not able to. So Rajas appears active, but Sattva is productive. A sattvic person doesn't appear busy. A rajasic person appears busy. That is why, there is a sort of, what should I say, connection between rajas and action. Actually, that's not really so. Rajasic people are like running on the treadmill. They're running very fast, but they're getting nowhere. So these tamas, rajas, sattva is a classification of thoughts, but they manifest in the body in a certain way. So sometimes it is used like that. Is that helpful?
But isn't rajas correlated with action? Anything which we do is rajas.
No, of course not. That if you take it like that, that means Krishna is very rajasic. Rama is very rajasic. They're extremely active people. They are out at war. They're fighting wars. Rama and Ravana both fought the war. Then why is Ravana considered rajasic and not Rama? The actions are the same, no?
So could it be that rajasic action are the ones which are selfless and then they lead to sattvic?
No.
No.
Sattvic actions are the ones which are selfless. Rajasic cannot be selfish. They don't know what is selfless. They cannot understand it. They'll say, how stupid. What a stupid idea to be unselfish, to be selfless. How stupid. Or they'll say, oh, that guy's unselfish is very good. Huh? That means it's for them. I will live my life.
Thank you.
And if you find it difficult to believe what I'm saying, you can read this whole section in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18.
Which verse then?
Which verse? You have Swamiji's commentary.
Yes, I have.
Okay,
I
so
don't
just
have.
look up the topics and then you can read it there.
Okay, I'll do that. Thank you.
So where were we? We were talking about how we keep thinking and thinking and thinking of something. And when we start thinking about it that much, that becomes extremely valuable to us in our eyes. Suppose you have an object in your house, excuse me, which is of great sentimental value to you. I remember as a child, I went to some party or something. Okay, and at that party, I don't even remember what that was. At that party, I was given what I thought was a very unusual thing, which was a glass with a plastic cap. I thought it was a wonderful thing. I don't know why I liked it. Just a glass with a plastic cap. I was very young and I thought that was a fantastic thing. So I took it very carefully and I kept it with my things. I just had one, not a shelf, a cupboard, small little cupboard for myself. And I kept it very safely over there. And then, it was a little tallish cupboard, so I had to stand on a stool occasionally to take something out. And when I was taking something out, I knocked this whatever glass that was with that cap, and it fell and it broke. Then I felt very, very bad. I was heartbroken that my little glass broke. Now nobody knows all this, okay? In a child's world, child doesn't want to explain anything to anyone. So that glass broke. I was heartbroken. So now that glass is broken, now what to do? I don't know what to do about that. So I picked up all the pieces and I kept them very carefully in something like this, there's a glass front thing. I put it in there because it was my glass, and so I kept it. After some days, when my mother was looking at it, she said, broken glass is lying in the cupboard. So she said, what is this? What have you kept a broken glass? That's ridiculous. You cut your fingers or something on it. I would not let her take that glass away. So then finally she took away the broken pieces of glass and that sort of base which hadn't broken, that was kept there for me. Can you imagine all this? Now when I look back on it, I think, like what? I could have told my mother, get me another glass with a cover. It's a very simple thing in life, right? But no, I wanted that one which was broken, and she was crazy because she thought I'm going to cut myself on that thing. Yeah, for her, what is she seeing? She is seeing a broken glass, some broken object. She doesn't know what this thing is, some broken object, which is a likely danger to her daughter. And she's going berserk that the daughter is going to cut her hand on it, or other worse things, whatever. For her, that object is that. For that little daughter, that broken piece of glass somehow has great significance. And I would never let anyone take that glass away. It was useless. It was pointless. It was, I don't know what. I mean, if I look back on it, I don't know why I insisted that is never ever to be thrown away. I can remember this feeling. And like that, you can also probably remember these feelings where for some time you felt that this is such an important thing that it cannot go away, cannot be thrown away. Remember anything in your life like that? Now the question is, Was there any intrinsic value in that thing? Was it of any use? Was it pretty? Was it valuable in some way? Now just think, suppose there's somebody, your mother left you a letter. That letter may have not said very much, but the fact that it is your mother's letter, you will preserve it. Suppose for whatever reason one is not there and somebody else opens the drawer and sees this letter, it's not saying very much. It's just throw it in the bin, right? Then how come for somebody it's so significant, so important, it's so valuable, and it is not for everybody else? How did that thing get so much value?
The attachment towards it.
That you're naming what it is, you're calling it.
Thinking.
How did it come? Just from the investment of thought in it. If you can understand that, you begin to realize how futile the whole thing. Everything is futile. What I value, what I don't value. Is there any reason for this? Yeah, Joyce.
Hari Om Jankiti. My question is about the fact that sometimes the attachment is not just doesn't always come from thoughts, but also from a physiological or biological phenomenon, let's say hormones in the body. For instance, like the example you gave last week about the mother who is expecting a child. For 9 months, she is, of course, focusing all her thoughts, all her attention on this child. But also there are some physiological changes that make her become extremely attached to the child and very distressed if something is wrong, or even after birth, the attachment grows and becomes also. But what my question is, isn't there sometimes something different from just the thought that creates attachment?
Joyce, nobody can answer this question. Ask a scientist, he will say that there are no such thing as somebody is not muted. There's no such thing as thought. There is only the physiological aspect of this. Okay? The philosophers say, not so. There is something called thoughts. There's a whole branch of study on that called consciousness studies. If you want to really confuse yourself, you can have a conversation with Mahesh. He will tell you all about it. So the thing is, this question we cannot answer as human beings. Okay, now you will say, then why are you making this statement if it is unknown? Because in philosophy, there is a necessity for us to have all our pieces in position. There is no such necessity, as far as I can tell, of in other subjects. But here, a philosophy is a complete philosophy only if it has all the various pieces have to fit together. If they don't fit, then you don't have a philosophy. So how can you, suppose you take away this concept that there exists thought, okay, as an entity in itself, you will have to take away a whole bunch of things. You will take away self-realization, you will take away rebirth, you will take away ethics, you will take away morality, because you will have no explanation for any of these things. You will have no yardsticks left anymore. You will have to take away even the most fundamental laws, which we know as true, such as the gross is controlled by the subtle, which we know is true. So if we were to express that this body was gross, that means the brain and all the chemicals and all the hormones and everything, then where is there a controlling factor at all? So we say, yeah, why should you say that? There's no controlling factor. Then the problem we go into is, if you claim that there is no such thing as thought, you will have to also say there is no such thing as free will. If you say that there is no such thing as free will, then entire thing becomes predetermined. Because how will you explain a person changing? So the whole thing begins to crumble. That is why philosophically, we have to have this peace in position. Now somebody says, okay, prove that there is a thought. Can't be done. That is why they have a whole branch of studies trying to establish whether or not there is something there. So that question really cannot be answered. It cannot be answered empirically. Empirically means do an experiment and show us. No, can't be done. It has to be so because of other factors. I mean, because of the logic of it, not because of the physical proof. How are you going to physically prove a thought? What you can see is the chemicals in the brain. What you can see is the secretion of the hormone, of the glands. But did they do it by themselves? Or was there a thought? Does a thought exist?
Probably a combination of different elements.
It's not a combination. If you claim that thought exists, then thought has made this happen. So there's no combination. It is like when you feel angry, for instance, certain physiological changes take place. Just like when you feel loving, physiological changes take place. When you're stressed, physiological, the adrenaline will start off. Or if you are in a happy thing, then what is it, dopamine, whatever. All these things will happen. They're well established. The whole question is, do these themselves do it? Or is there a thought? You felt angry or stressed or happy, and therefore these chemicals were released. So it's not a combination, it is a cause and effect or not.
Makes sense. Thank you.
So, Mahesh, you have a question?
Yeah, so
Oh no, I said
thoughts-
consciousness studies. I'm
no,
getting
no, no,
big trouble.
no, I'm not getting at that because
Right.
yeah, nowadays my focus is on truth and not on consciousness studies.
Okay, good. I'm happy to hear this.
No, I just had a question. Besides thoughts, if actions are also involved, does the thought pattern become even more difficult to sort of, control? I mean, if you just had a thought of doing something and you didn't do it, will that be weaker than if you had a thought and you did it and then does action reinforce that thought pattern?
No, the action per se doesn't. The thoughts reinforce the thoughts. So if you act in such a way that the thought is over, then you're good, right? Then you're not reinforcing. But if you act in such a way that the thought is repeated, then you are repeating the thought. So the action per se doesn't really have anything to do with it. But sometimes the action is such that you are incapable of doing the action without the thought repetition. In which case, if you do the action, you're in a big soup. But
Okay.
so it's not the action; it's the thought itself.
Okay.
I mean, how have you performed that action? If you perform the action in the right way, the thought may get over also.
No, it was a mind-led action. So it's a thought which is you cannot control. That's what I meant because it's
So you, of course, you will increase, but it is because it is mind-led. Had you done the same action, intellect-led, action being the same, nothing would have happened.
So if you wanted to lose weight and you are passing a sweet shop and you say, okay, I'll just have a little sweet one day, next day I won't. Or you go and then you have one and then go. Will that action of having it make it more likely that the next time you'll also succumb to that? Or if you say, no, I won't have it and you go away, but yet the thought is there. That's what I meant. That I mean, you actually had it once. Will that really sort of
No, there's no correlation.
no correlation?
Like it is to do with how you did the action.
Okay.
Deep Raj, it's like looking at the electrical activity in the motherboard and saying that caused the software to run, but we know it's the other way around. The motherboard has the activity because the software is running. Yes, it's a good example, Deep Raj. But you can't answer the question like this. It's a good way to visualize it or illustrate it in your own mind that all this is happening, all the chemicals and the hormones and all this is happening because of your thoughts. And you can't see the thoughts, you see these chemicals and you say the chemicals are doing everything. So you have a very good example for that. But now, is this true or not in our own in our own constitution? Now, everybody will fight over this. Vedanta has clearly laid down over the thousands of years, but that is based on a logic. There can be no empirical evidence. This is the whole problem with this world, is that the questions never really get solved. Because as the more empirical evidence you try to chase, you feel that the answer is almost there, but actually it isn't there. So the questions never get answered. Which scientific major question has ever been answered? All they do is they give you another question. That's all they do. So first they said Adam and Eve created the world. Then somebody got up and said impossible. This is by natural selection. Okay, fine. So now we are all into natural selection. Now, so have we solved the problem? Not yet. So how did life start on Earth then? No, we won't discuss how it started. We know that having started, it did this. No, but how did it start? So we have that theory. What is it called? It says it was seeded from outside. The comet brought some bacteria or virus or something here and seeded the Earth. Okay, fine, but how did that bacteria or virus get onto the comet? Which question is being answered here? How did it go all the way back to Big Bang? It's all started there. Okay, but let us say it is true that all the material of the universe was in a highly condensed form, which can be put on one teaspoonful of matter, and then there was a Big Bang, and then the whole thing became what it is today. Okay, but how did that teaspoonful of matter get there in the first place? Which question is really answered? So, science cannot answer these questions because it seeks the answers empirically. Philosophy says it cannot be answered. Science says you all are talking nonsense. We will go on finding out, and one day we will find. Now, this fight has gone on for all these centuries. It will continue to go on. You have to decide which one you are taking. But can you prove that it is just like your illustration? Cannot. That you must be clear about. So don't insist on it and tell people it is true, because you cannot prove it. You must know what is provable, what is not. But we can say logically, I cannot see how this is not possible. I can't see it. If you can show me how logically it is not possible, okay, we'll listen to you then. Aditi, please explain with an example. Mahesh's question. What do you mean, Aditi?
Hari Om Janki ji. you were he was talking about how action, if it when the thought combined with action, does it grow stronger or just it's so I just was couldn't really follow it, and I thought maybe an example could make it a little bit more clear.
Okay. So he himself gave the example. He said, I'm trying to lose weight, or somebody's trying to lose weight, and they pass a sweet shop, let's say ice cream shop, and then they're dying to have that ice cream. So so they have two options. They go and they have the ice cream, or they continue. So according to him, one of these two actions will generate more thoughts. So the answer was no, neither of these actions will generate thoughts. It is how you did that action which will generate the thought. If you chose to go in and have your ice cream, but it was intellect backed, that means you decided that was the right thing to do and therefore did it, you will not create desire. If you are mind led in that, you will create desire. If you walk by because you are mind led, you are terrified. Oh my God, if I have one bite of ice cream, I will just go back to becoming Tuntun or whatever it is. Then that mind led will make you think more and more of that ice cream. And if you pass by intellect led, you will not create desire.
So when would it be right to have an ice cream?
Now that depends on so many factors, which your intellect will have to determine at that time for yourself. Now the problem here is we are so good at fooling ourselves that we will say, oh, my intellect has allowed me to do it. So like, who are you fooling? At the end of the day, we don't take responsibility for our lives. And when you do, you realize I'm fooling nobody but myself. Who am I fooling? Like, who cares whether I'm fat or not? Who cares whether I'm in hospital or not? It's I who's going to bear the consequences of it. So,
So Janki ji, so if it doesn't bring the desire back to eat the ice cream, and if you've eaten it and said that uh, I will not eat it henceforth, whatever is the right thing to do, and if you don't have the desire again, that will determine whether it was mind led or intellect led.
result never determines.
Okay.
It was intellect led if it was a well considered action. It was mind led if it was an impulsive action. Now, these will be consequences, but you can't determine from that result like this. Because you will not think of the ice cream again because now you're having a gulab jamun. You can't use results.
But then how do you determine? Because you can, as you said, that it could be an mind driven, but you said I've thought it through and I'm thinking from the intellect. So then how do you distinguish whether it's mind or intellect driven?
Eventually, you just, how do you know? How do you know anything in this world? Your intellect itself has to tell you whether this was in retrospect, whether it was intellect driven or mind driven. How else would you know? In retrospect, at least we know.
As an initial startup, isn't it a very tough thing to figure out?
It is, but in simple decisions, you start doing it, and then in bigger decisions, it becomes more and more clear. But if you insist on fooling yourself, insist on, love, people want to be right all the time. So they don't want to just say, okay, I made a mistake. I won't do this again. This simple thing nobody likes to do. So they want to justify. It's very complicated. So therefore, Vedanta says just get up in the morning and study, and let's hope the intellect gets sharp enough to not do all the nakra that normal human beings do. It's very simple. Doing Vedantic things are also simple and uncomplicated. But the mind is so, there's so many stories it weaves to itself. The intellect has to cut through that. So how will it do? It has to be strong. So therefore study. What else can you do? Otherwise, you can't recognize it. There is nobody. have to be able to see this, that there is nobody in this world who thinks that they've done something wrong. All the people, simple example, all the people who come to class, do they think they're doing something wrong?
You mean to say coming to class or
Yes,
just
coming to
mentally?
class. Coming to class. Do you think you're doing something wrong?
No.
All the people who stop coming to class, do they think they're doing something wrong?
Maybe.
No, nobody thinks they're doing anything wrong. Not nobody. I'm giving you opposite examples because nobody thinks they're doing anything wrong. Everybody thinks they're very correct in whatever they're doing.
I-
It's an art to just see things for what they are. I made a mistake and that's it. No, I will not do it next time, or I will booktify the result, or whatever. Just see things for what they are. Oh, this is too difficult for me to do right now. I'm not going to be bothered about it. Just see things for what they are. No, I don't think I've come to a stage where I can say no to that ice cream. No, we're fine. You're not at that stage. No, we won't say that. We'll say, no, but this, but that, this. Long story. Now, this is the human mind. Now, what can you do? What can anyone do? So, small things, at least let's just be brutally honest with ourselves. Small things. So, little intellect is growing stronger and stronger. There's no real answer because it's all happening in our heads, right? So, I mean, who's to say this is the mind and who's to say this is the intellect?
Janki ji?
Yeah. Okay, Aditi?
Kind
Sorry.
of. It's okay.
It'll always be kind of because there is no answer here.
It's okay.
Can I
Thank-
just
Yeah.
can I
go
just
ahead.
give an example based on Aditi's question? Supposing I'm hosting a client to a meal, and the client, wants an ice cream for dessert, and I'm not having one. So the client says, no, if you're not having one, I will not have one. Then I have, let's say, two options. I can either say, look, I'm sorry, I'm diabetic, so I really can't have it. Please, I'll be happy to go ahead. Or I can say, okay, I will keep you company and have one. Now, would that be an intellect-led decision or a mind-led? It's difficult for an outsider to answer, I guess. Only you will know how important that decision is, right?
Yeah, of course. Because you can say, okay, you have your dessert, I will accompany you with a coffee, for instance. Because that person is feeling awkward just eating by themselves. Say, okay, I'll have
Right.
coffee with you. I'll have a blue
Right.
tea with you. I'll have whatever, None of these are options. Then what is the least sugary thing? Is there a sugar-free thing? Can I have a fruit instead of having a sugar bomb? I mean, so many options are there, right, for us. Oh, yeah, of course, you can tell the person, look, you want to eat, you eat. You don't force me to eat. Say that also. But in India, I suppose that's very difficult. Because everybody decides what everybody else is going to eat. You can't answer it like that. These are all like, that's why the study of Vedanta is tough, People say, well, what should I do? There is no answer like that. You have to think this thing through, to train yourself to think this thing through. Okay, I do this, then this, then this, then this. When we do an action, it's not in a vacuum. It's not that we do an action and the ho gaya. Every action has a consequence. And then again you get a choice. And then again you get a choice. And then again you get a choice. Depending on how you make these choices, life is going to be. Take that responsibility that I'm fooling no one but myself here. So sorry, no answers. Okay, Bharat. So Bharat's answer is, okay, I will eat the ice cream and then you come to the gym with me. That will make anybody run away from there. Okay, fine. That's one way of handling it. Yes. Reshma is skeptical whether that even works. Samta. So that is far-sightedness, to be able to see the cause or the chain of cause and effect. Yes. It's not in a vacuum. Nothing is happening in a vacuum. So much is coming from the past and it's all going into the future. And this moment is just a moment of choice at any point. And that can push your trajectory this way or this way. And sometimes we take choices, we make choices without even recognizing that we have, that it was a very significant choice that I've just made. So yes, you can call it farsightedness. I mean, all these words are correct. But the thing is, as far as I know, only Vedanta explains what this thing means, what all these words mean, and then all the virtues come back to us, and we start thinking, oh, so that is what it is. And if you think about it, farsightedness is that. What about patience? What is patience? Also that. What about bravery? That is also the same thing. And then I begin to see, oh, all the virtues are only one thing, that my intellect works. There's not no other virtue. What is discipline? My intellect is working. What is discipline? But the ability to see where actions are taking you and therefore sticking on course with your actions. So all the virtues are the same thing. Yeah, Gunjan, I know you have been waiting patiently.
Hari Om Janki ji. So, can you please explain about the intrinsic value that, like you were talking about related to the glass? So, for example, when I look at a flower, it looks beautiful to my eyes. So, how can I deny that the flower is not beautiful? I mean, yeah, isn't it holding an intrinsic value?
The important thing to understand is that flower, if that flower holds this intrinsic value, then wouldn't everybody see that value? For an ant, what is the value of that? For a bee, what is the value of that? We think roses are so good and roses are so romantic. A dog sees a rose. Will he attribute any of all this to it? Will a dog ever take to Mrs. Dog a red rose? That Mrs. Dog will say to Mr. Dog, "Are you mad? What have you brought me this nonsense? I cannot eat it. I cannot play with it. I can't do anything. Why you brought me this stupid thing?" Now, who is the decider of the value? Who will decide that this thing has value or not? Humans have to decide. Okay, then which human will decide? What is the intrinsic value? How do you establish that something has value? You will run into all these questions, right? So before we even run into how will you decide something has value, your first question was, how did I think it has value? Because I have not taken this call, right? I have not made an analysis of why it's important and decided it's important. I think it's important already. How did I come to this conclusion? Are you with me?
Yeah.
I know
I
everybody
mean,
has been giving me that same thing today, Gunjan. What are you saying, kind of thing. And I recognize that because it's really, it's like, why did you even say it? Anyway, it doesn't make any sense.
there are like certain things if let's say I talk about any old book or any old diary which has completely filled, but still I'm keeping it because that's old. So in that context, I can understand uh, that that information that I have written in the past or that diary doesn't make sense now. So, okay, that doesn't, that can, that I can drop. But if I talk about, let's say I'm having a bad day and I go out in nature and I see a beautiful a tree, just a tree, and then I look at it carefully. I see patterns in it. So to me, it's look beautiful. So how can I? My question is, how can I deny that it's not beautiful?
You're not denying that it is, you're not denying or asserting that it is beautiful. As a philosopher, you're asking the question, why am I thinking it is? So your answer is because I love the patterns in it. So why is it that patterns are supposed to be beautiful? Does everybody find pattern beautiful? Why have I decided that seeing this pattern is a very beautiful thing? Not only that, if I was not upset and I went to the same tree and saw this very same pattern, what would be my emotions then? What had been my emotions about this maybe 5 years ago? So why is it at the moment I'm finding it so?
Because I'm paying attention to it.
Maybe, but even if you, whatever you pay attention to, that will start looking beautiful to you. Isn't it? That's what it means that you're investing thought in it. If you had a baby at any point, take that example. If the mother had a baby at any point, and this baby, according to everybody, was the most ugly baby on the surface of this earth, for the mother, would she ever agree with this? That's a very ugly baby. For
No.
every single mother, that child is Prince Charming. And any woman who approaches that son of hers is just not good enough. I mean, like, where is my son? Where is Raja Bhoj and where is Gangu Teli? So, why is it appearing so? I'm not denying that it's appearing beautiful. I'm questioning why it's appearing beautiful to me.
Okay.
Samta is saying that if you look upon it as beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder, that might help. Whereas beauty, ugliness, importance, not important, everything is based on the individual who's looking at it. Okay, Gunjan?
Uh, but then, like the example that you gave of a glass, uh, according to you, it was pretty. So what's wrong in that?
It was a broken glass. I'm sure even if I did at one point think it was pretty, I mean, okay, maybe I thought was pretty, but now it's broken. Only that base was there. All the top portion are all broken. Now I'm still holding on to it. And if I continue to think it is very pretty, then am I sensible for thinking so? And who's to determine whether I'm sensible to think so or not? My mother certainly didn't think I was sensible. And she thought like mad or something, broken glass to keep. It was thick, thick thing. I can't for the life of me remember what I am. I think this glass was given to my brother. I have a feeling there was something like that. It was given to him. He won it for something. And he was most unimpressed with what he got. But I was like, this is the most fantastic thing ever. I want it. I don't remember what it was. But I remember that broken glass which I would not let anyone touch. That's exactly how we all adults behave. Now, why is that? It's a broken glass. Can you drink from it? No. Can you put it in your showcase? No. Then what is the reason that one will not let it go? Can you show it to your friends and say, what a beautiful glass I have? No, because that obviously now that plastic lid on top cannot be put because the top is broken. So is it pretty? I don't know. I don't know how to answer that question. For that young child then, it was pretty. For everybody else, it was a mad or something, a dangerous thing. Is it a pretty thing or a dangerous thing? Who is to decide? We are not saying whether it is or not. We are only talking about why the person thinks so. Are you able to see the difference? We are not arguing with anybody saying that it's not pretty or it is pretty or anything. The only contention here is why is the person who is thinking that?
Yeah, yeah. Got it. Thank you.
Mahesh?
Yeah, so are there any gradations on these things that you sort of pursue? So, for example, if someone's pursuing karma yoga, the three yogas, and someone else is living a selfish life, are they on par, or is one considered anyway higher than the other? Is there any, or is it just a subjective thing, all of the same level?
No, what it is always dependent on the yardstick. So, what is the yardstick you choose to use? If your yardstick is that who becomes the richest person, if that's your yardstick, then spending your life doing social work will prove you to be an utter idiot. Depends on what is your yardstick, right? So, is there an objective yardstick? Yes, there is. And once you have it, you will know which is higher or lower. But that objective yardstick is also somebody's subjective thing, right? So if you have to come to some base of what is it that will determine something is better or worse, and your yardstick is the amount of people it benefits, then the whole picture changes. Now you're saying which yardstick is better? Did it make more money or did it help more people? If you want to compare these two yardsticks, you will have to have a yardstick to determine what yardstick makes more sense. And that is where, in the ultimate sense, of course, we can't do the whole thing, but that in the ultimate sense is where the concept of realization and all these unknowns come into position. If you say that which takes you to the self is the most useful thing, then now you've got some different yardstick. How will you know it's better or worse? That comes to our concept of gross or subtle. If you consider gross or subtle as a yardstick, if you say that there are two things in the world, there some things are more subtle and some things are more gross. If you are willing to accept this, then you can create a more objective yardstick. If you're not willing to accept this, then how will you create the yardstick?
Yeah, what I meant is a yardstick set by a sattvic person versus a yardstick by a rajasic or a tamasic person. So the yardstick itself is
the fact that you're calling it sattvic and tamasic, you've already placed your yardstick. Now we have to have a starting point, right? Your starting point has to be, one of them could be, do you accept that there is something grosser and there is something subtler? If you accept that, then anything subtler will be superior to anything grosser, right? If you accept this, if you come with me up to this stage, then you'll have to decide, how do I determine whether something is grosser or subtler, right? And that you already have studied, so we need not go into all of that. So all these yardsticks are based on some assumption. Are you willing to make that assumption or not?
Are those of inviolable, those assumptions like what is subtler and the classification of subtlety
Yes.
is quite clearly
Yes, but correct. That is correct. But are you willing to accept that there is grosser and subtler is better? Are you willing to accept? If you say, no, I don't accept this, then now what you're going to do? Then what is the use of establishing whether it is more subtle or not? So everything, invaluable or not, is based on an assumption.
so. But isn't it an objective truth whether you accept it or not? That
What is an objective truth?
subtler and grosser, are they not objective truths? You don't have to have someone accepting it. I mean, they might not be aware of it, but it's so. I mean, they might be misled into thinking it's not so, or no.
I don't know whether you can say that at all. Suppose you say that you can't just say that, oh, if you don't agree with this, you're misled. That doesn't sound right.
Okay.
Samta, haven't saints and sages told us that you are wasting human life if you do not pursue self-realization? So is it not a yardstick for everyone? No, because your assumption over here, you have made the assumption that it's not a good idea to waste. If you don't make that assumption, how is this going to stand?
So, no, my thought was, Jankiji, like for certain laws, like Vedanta is laying out those laws. So, like for gravity, one accepts or not, it still exists for everyone. So, same thing for those Vedantic laws, whether one accepts or not, doesn't it exist
Yes.
for everyone?
Yes, but the law you have put down is not one of those. A
So the
law.
Vedantic laws that this will happen and cause and effect and this and that. So whether a person who's into gross making money accepts or not, like I think that's what Mahesh is saying. Isn't that
Yes,
still
yes. Those laws are true, but what you have written down is not one of those laws.
okay? The what sage and saints have said, like,
Of
but
course,
haven't they left Vedas and Vedantas and Upanishads for us to read and follow?
yes, of course.
So, but then that means they have left it for everyone, but it's some accept, some don't accept, but it exists.
I think you can now, because we are almost time up. There is a video on our YouTube channel about Shruti and Smriti. Have you heard
Right.
it about?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So
It's small.
every sage has left some Shruti and some Smriti. So you have to know which is which. Only Shruti is invaluable. So, Karant, read the broken glass example. I understand that likes and dislikes at the level of the mind, just as bodies are different, mind will also be different. Correct. But wanting to possess even a broken glass, is it because an innocent, like small desire for the glass, first, at some point, becomes an intense desire or intense attachment to it, even if it's just a broken piece? Yes, correct. Except the question that we are trying to answer over here is, why did that thing become so important? Or how did that thing become so important? Was any objective yardstick applied? So we know for sure that no yardstick has been applied. So that means no analysis was done, right, on why this is so important. And yet, for that individual, it is. So if there was no objective analysis done by the individual, how does it happen that this is so important in the person's life? That's what we're trying to deal. Okay, Karan. So what
Is that Janaki ji? Yes, is that because of our vasanas? I guess. I mean, based on our vasanas, we'll find certain things very interesting, or this will be, I will like this and this will become very important to me just based on my nature, my vasanas?
True. That the vasana is there, but the vasana is not manifest. So therefore, we cannot attribute cause to it. But as it manifests, what will happen? Those thoughts are starting. So the more thought force you put behind something, the more important you will find it.
Okay, so you're saying that's where if we realize that a small like is kind of becoming a little bit irrational, we have to kind of catch ourselves and see where we're putting those thoughts and try to deflect thoughts from that particular thing.
Yeah, I'm not saying any of that. All I'm saying is it appears valuable because thoughts have been put there.
Okay.
This is Shruti, right? What you just said is Smriti. You're taking that information and converting it to a do or a don't or a advice or a suggestion. Now you are making that to Smriti. So Shruti is only states the law. The more you think about something, the more that thing will start appearing important to you and become so important that the loss of that thing will be heartbreaking. That's just a fact. Okay, Karan?
Yes, Janaki-ji, thank you.
Okay, so that's it for today. All those who are in Bombay, near Bombay, I hope you all are all coming for even if you're far away, I hope you all are coming for the Bhumi Pujan. 40 odd people are coming, so that's wonderful. And hope that everybody in some way or the other is able to participate in this. It's a good first step, right? Small step, but good first step. Okay, so do come if you're anywhere close by.